All right, I guess we'll get started. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I'm curious, just out of a quick show of hands, how many folks in this room are members of the IMCCA? Okay, so we have a handful, that's great. So those of you who aren't familiar with the IMCCA, it's an alliance around interactive multimedia and collaborative communications, right? It's a not-for-profit organization really designed to help folks like yourselves, end users, folks like on the panel who are providers of equipment and services, and then our channel partners in between to do a better job of bringing education and knowledge and awareness to all the different solution sets in the marketplace, right? So it's if you haven't joined, as you can see here in the lower bottom here, 2969, booth 2969, if you're an end user, it's free to join. If you're a vendor, there's multiple opportunities for you to join at different levels and different concerns from a perspective of what's it going to cost. Great place to get engaged. They do a lot of good things at events like this, these sorts of panels, educational sessions, just networking and brand building opportunities. So if you haven't already joined the IMCCA, give it some consideration, and we thank you for being here this afternoon. Who am I? My name is John Antanaitis. I know some folks in the room. This is my 15th consecutive InfoComm. I've been a board member of the IMCCA for, I think, 5 years roughly. Currently acting as the leader of A-Team 6. How many folks are familiar with A-Team 6 in the audience? I know a couple of you, we've talked about it. So it's a small service and consulting organization in Austin, Texas. That's where I live. I put some seed money into it about 10 years ago. It's been growing rapidly, expanding fabulously. Income is up literally like 50 times where we started. My sons are thrilled because A-Team 6 is the LLC for their lawn care business, right? So I just needed a name for a business, and so that's when we put up there. So no further information needed about me, but if you'd like to talk after the session, please let me know. We're here to talk about this situation, right? We're here to talk about wireless presentations. We've all been around the block long enough to know that there's been some real fun with trying to share content in the room and between rooms and between geographies, right? In, one to many or one to one, or just in any geography, or even leveraging the cloud and cloud tools and applications and resources that you want to share and leverage in a collaborative session. So this group, this fine panel here, is going to help us learn a bit more about what's available in the marketplace today, talk about some of the challenges that they've been overcoming, some of them on this list here, right? Cables that you trip over, connectors that don't fit, my device isn't one of the accepted devices, I can't get on the network because I'm a guest, etc. And so we'll talk more about that, but we're going to let the panel do that talking. Clearly there's been a number of different solutions, right? USB options. Then you have to worry, does it grow legs? Do you have the one in the room that you need? And do you have the application that goes with it potentially if you're a guest as well? Room-based hotspots, and how do you control that? How do you manage that it stays confined to that room? Who's handling the security aspects of that? And then of course app-based sharing. How many apps do you need for doing the same thing, right? So oftentimes you end up that your organization uses app A, you go to meet with another group that use app B, and so the question mark is how can you get some democratization of content sharing in here, right? Ted? Anyhow, so the panel represented today, we have a group of 5 from these organizations, Crestron, Intel, Kramer, Polycom, and Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. I've put this little slide together so we know who's who in the zoo, and they're all lined up according to which group they're in, right, or which organization they represent. And so I'd like to ask Ted to kick off. What I'd like to do, Ted, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself, and then share a little bit about what Crestron is doing, not a full-blown commercial, right, but just a little bit about, is your solution a hardware solution, is it a software solution, is it an app solution, is it all the above, what have you, and then Dave, Neta, Amy, and Wayne, I'd like each of you to do the same, all right? We kicked off that way, that'd be great.
Great, and thank you. Are there any AD professionals in the room? My name is Ted Colton. I work for a small company out of New Jersey, Crestron. We have a small booth in the back. We have a small booth that you might notice. My role at Crestron is Vice President of Unified Communications Strategies. You might say we've been in the presentation business for a long time, and we have a variety of solutions, most principally a product by the name of Air Media. And here at the show, we've announced that Air Media is essentially included in all of our solutions. So that's one way we're looking at, you stole my term, what I consider the democratization of presentation.
Hi, I'm Dave Buchholz. I'm a principal engineer for Intel. I run the customer enablement and sales team for our product Intel Unite worldwide. Spent 17 years inside of Intel IT, rolling out all of our workplace transformation, consumerization initiatives internally for Intel. Out of that work, identified many shortcomings trying to do things like wireless presentation, everything from trying to use Miracast, Wide-Eye, Chromecast, Apple TV, you name it, we tried it from an IT standpoint. And out of that was born our Unite product. I came out of the IT shop into the business client portion of Intel, and out of necessity, we wore out a product, Intel Unite. It's actually designed to do very simple wireless display and screen sharing using existing clients, existing IT infrastructure that you already have. Put a simple little PC inside there, and we also work with several ecosystem partners. So we put their plugins in. We're not trying to be the next Skypes and WebEx and Zooms of the world. We actually work with them, integrate their products in, and we just simply provide the simple UI, consistent UI across multiple OSs to facilitate that. So feel free to stop by and we'll show you our product.
Thank you. My name is Neta Lempert. I'm a VP in Kramer, managing the Wireless and Collaboration Division. I'm coming from Israel, so if my English is not that clear, I can always switch back to Hebrew. I'm working in Kramer for the past 14 years, in the AV industry for the past 26 years. And our wireless presentation and collaboration solutions offer both appliances and software solutions. Some of them are introduced for the first time here at the show. Again, it's not a commercial or something, but we really believe that we have the largest portfolio of feature sets and different devices and appliances that you can find in the market, which ensures both image quality, security, and at the end of the day, the best value. So I hope that this discussion will be fruitful, and then I invite you all to our booth later on. It's also a small one, somewhere in the hall, not far away from the classroom one, but we like each other. That's the most important thing.
Good afternoon. See, I have an AV guy right here. Yeah. I'm Amy Barzdukas, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Polycom. We actually do have a rather small booth, but we still have it packed with things, including the Polycom Pano, which we just launched last week, which is a piece of hardware that attaches to any monitor and allows simultaneous display of up to 4 streams of content wirelessly, or if you're really old school, you can use an HDMI cable as well. But the thing that we wanted to do with Pano was, in addition to the in-the-room content sharing, we've also bridged that with content ideation. So if you add a touch monitor instead of just a monitor, now you have full-fledged markup, annotation, whiteboarding, and what we call the infinite blackboard. So no commercial, but do please come see Wink Sexton in the Polycom Pano game show at our booth, and maybe win a prize.
All right, loud enough. So, Wayne Driggers, I work on our channel and alliance development team at Zoom. Zoom's focus across numerous factors, including wireless presentation sharing, has been to be able to leverage cloud services and leverage the cloud to kind of provide a collaboration fabric that can lay on top of any environment, any hardware, any tool being used to enhance collaboration or to connect. So our approach to wireless presentation sharing is to actually embed that into our software and allow you to access that whether you're using any endpoint, any desktop, Mac, PC, mobile, whatever it be, and you enable that software to provide 1080p wireless presentation sharing, being able to click play on a YouTube and have someone watch that via their mobile device, via their Polycom endpoint in their room through our recent partnership. So it's really enabling you to leverage software, leverage the cloud to be able to present anything you wish. Not only the video component, but also being able to just share that content in the room, around the globe, even from your mobile device, no matter where you're at. And one of the powerful things as well is that it's not on-net required, so you don't have to be on a corporation's network in order to access it. You can be on your 3G connection on your mobile device in order to enable that wireless content share no matter what room you're in that has Zoom-enabled environment in it. Feel free to stop by our booth, 1719. Very happy to kind of show you that and walk you through and let you see what it looks like.
All right, terrific, thanks. So this morning I had a break and I was able to go to each of the 5 booths and evaluate all 5 of those different wireless sharing solutions. And I recommend if this is something you're interested in doing the very same. So I don't want to bias the discussion in any way, shape, or form, but it was time well spent and interesting to learn differences and unique areas in the approaches that the different panel members offer. So as you think about that, I'm going to go ahead and start, if you don't mind, Dave. I'm going to jump in here. Your solution is PC-based, so a little bit different. What's the driver behind that from your perspective?
Well, again, the main driver behind it from our perspective was a lot of our team when it was put together were ex-IT guys. And so, again, how many people in here have actually tried to implement Chromecast, Apple TV, or anything else inside your environment? Is it because you wanted it or because your users were demanding the experience of that simplicity, right? So we as IT guys started out with how do we deliver that experience but use existing IT infrastructure, IT technologies, IT security, because it kind of gets you over the hurdle. So we started with a PC because, number one, we didn't want this to be a stovepipe solution, a single appliance that only did one thing. We wanted it to work with other things. So you're going to need computing power behind that so you can do that. Number two, how many people in here already know how to manage PCs? Right? How many people already have tool sets to do that? So we're not going to develop a whole other tool stack and management console if you have to go out and learn how to manage something new. We're going to let you use your existing tool sets to manage the new device. So if it's a PC, it runs Windows operating system. It's easy and simple to manage because you already do that, because you handle desktops, you handle clients already inside your environment. So we're taking a lot of what was already working for IT and put that in there. And the third part was it uses already authentication, certificate, based authentication, 256-bit encryption, everything that's already been instituted for PC-based systems inside your environment, including network connectivity. So it's not reinventing the wheel. You don't have to forklift environments. You don't have to bring a different appliance stack in to go in and implement this solution. It simply plugs into your existing IT infrastructure. So that was very important to us, is that you can't just walk into an IT shop and say, here's a great solution. Forklift everything and you can put this in today. Right? You've got to go into legacy environments, you've got to go into new environments, into retrofit environments, you've got to be able to do that. And so we saw the PC as the best way to be able to do that.
All right. So you mentioned a couple different things there. One of them you started talking about was security. I know that that's a critical concern for everyone who's sharing content, whether they're sharing in the room and trying to keep it located just to that room, or whether they're sharing more broadly across geographies or even through the cloud, etc. Are there any other members of the panel that want to talk specifically to that issue?
Yeah, I'll be the one. So security is divided when it comes to wireless presentation, into 2 different layers. One is the device protection. We want to protect the device itself, the appliance, and the client, obviously. And the second is the data encryption. So no one will be able to see what's going on in the room because it's wireless, and we tend to think that tapping to the wireless network is very easy, and then you can decode everything that goes wirelessly. And that's why I think that the industry in general needs to adopt one single standard, and there is such a standard well known to the IT guys, which is the OWASP. That's the standard that defines how an appliance that sits on the network should be protected in terms of not being hacking. So they're doing lots of different penetration tests, and if you pass all of those processes, you can get the certification. I'm proud to say that all VIA devices that we have in Kramer are certified by OWASP. So we are both protected from hacking as well as data encryption. We have the strongest data encryption available on the market for the data and the handshake between the client device and the appliance itself. So security is very, very important. And one big player in the industry that is not presented here claim for security, but you know, when you dig into it, you see that the security level is just the key for the Wi-Fi, which anyway you have to publish, for, you know, so people can connect. So as soon as you have the Wi-Fi key, you can very, very easily decode the data that goes into the projector or the display. Meaning, if I'm sitting outside and I'm connected to the same Wi-Fi network, I can see everything that happens in the meeting space.
I think those are excellent considerations, and I think everybody should do that. I think there's another approach that we're seeing in practical reality, and I think the fact that this room is packed to capacity, I want to mention two things for our general audience, and then kind of offer a different perspective. The first thing is presentation is way too hard. Okay? I see a lot of people nodding, but it's ridiculous. It's the number one thing people do in the meeting room. And it's way too hard. And yet we've got lots of consumer approaches, we've got lots of enterprise approaches, and all the considerations we've already talked about, and we'll continue to talk about it, are important and should be addressed. But we need to focus on the user experience, not the user interface, the user experience. So we, as an industry, have been trying to keep up, and the evolution of technology is rapid, but you, the users, should demand a greater simplified experience, because you know there's been the various studies that can be debated about technology, you know, getting in the way of meetings and starting meetings. We can all agree it needs to be simple. So hold our feet to the fire. You know, and then in some organizations, security doesn't matter. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when we look at the vast total population of meeting spaces in the world, they're not always in an enterprise. They're not always in a traditional office. They're not always traditionally in an educational setting. And quite frankly, in the university setting, trying to drive a standard across the student population is pretty darn tough. So I'm gonna just mention a couple of things. I think that if you take an OS approach, which is very valid, if you take a PC approach, very valid. Unfortunately yet, there's still not one single solution. But I think everybody at this table is making strides to improve the user experience, so take a look at them. We haven't solved it yet. But the other thing that I'll say is sometimes, in the case of the environment when you want to let a guest come into your enterprise or your campus or those things, it needs to be simple. And so Wi-Fi is already under massive saturation. We can barely handle the needs of the people who are authorized with access management. But it's possible, in a lightweight fashion, I think most of us would agree, to actually sub-segment the Wi-Fi access to guest Wi-Fi, which most people already have said, fine, here's an open Wi-Fi, no credentials, just go into it, it's Crestron open, log in, we don't care, we've taken care of all the InfoSec required on the back end, and then it ought to be really simple just to look at a key or some description, some user experience that says, how do I present? There's a variety of ways to that. So I think there's both those approaches.
So I want to jump in on a couple of things. First, to what Ted said about the user experience. We're in here talking about wireless content. If you, and I know this because we've done this many times over the past couple of months, but if you put a assorted group of actual bona fide users in a room and you ask them to share content, the first thing they do is look for the cable. So if we're going to be successful in this whole wireless thing, which has a lot going for it, not the least of which is clearing up the tabletop, making sure you can share, simplicity has got to rule, and people need to not have to guess which one of 10 different simple standards to use to share their content wirelessly. So that's, absolutely. I would also say, and I can say this with love and affection, after 17 years working at Microsoft, 6 of those in security at Microsoft, there are a number of customers to whom we speak who don't necessarily look at managing Windows as a plus when it comes to security in the conference room, for good or for ill, mostly because a lot of the customers that we talk to don't necessarily have the same person managing their collaboration solutions that manage the rest of their infrastructure. And so I think you have to be sensitive to your own workflows and your management workflows as to who actually does what, because there are instances in which a PC-based solution is going to be perfect and it's going to simplify your management and it's all part and parcel. There are other scenarios in which it may not be. And so I think this is one of those things where you really have to look at your environment, what you like to manage, what kinds of rooms you're enabling. There are some rooms that today don't even necessarily have a whiteboard in them. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up, is back to the users, your single biggest security issue is always going to be the people in the room. So if you've got an environment where people write passwords on stickies, there are a lot of things that you should be paying attention to.
So building on Ted and Amy's comment about user experience, that's one of the key things that we focus on at Zoom as well. When we look at user experience and then layer in also security concerns, one thing that we've identified and are trying to leverage the cloud to solve the problem is if you minimize the number of devices connected to your network, if you minimize the number of devices you have in order to manage a conference room, then you're able to actually improve security, improve your user experience, as well as just improve anything related to that room and sharing content. So, with our approach of actually leveraging the cloud and having the interoperable capability with Polycom, now with Crestron, now with Intel as well, being able to share content from the connector within the Intel Unite. Being that kind of cloud service that enables you to instantly enable content share through the software without any hardware component extra in the room, you're minimizing all of those risk factors, you're minimizing the management factor, you're minimizing those components by just not having to deal with them. And being able to go to, in our case, share.zoom.us if the Polycom meeting is running and has Zoom running on the background in order to reach out to individuals via the cloud, you can enable wireless content share just by going to share.zoom.us and entering the meeting number. You have all the security and control that is built into the Zoom platform. It's the same platform that we actually enable HIPAA compliancy and work with our healthcare customers on. So the level of security is there, the control is there, and you're managing just by entering now rather than having to get rather than getting a special guest access to a network, getting any control. If I have a content in my box file, I can open up my app, I can share it right into the room. Again, no matter what the endpoint is, no matter what you're connected on, just by leveraging the cloud. So when you minimize, the amount of hardware and components you have to put into a room, then you're actually able to enhance the user experience and make, fewer steps in order to accomplish things. So, approaching security and approaching user experience from a different angle, that's how we see kind of individuals are able to realize that goal of user experience, security, reliability, and quality.
So is it fair to say that across this entire panel, if a guest comes into any environment where your solution's in play, they're going to be able to get up and get on that solution and share content? Is that something that's been now taken off the list? Is that something we can quit worrying about?
No. I don't, honestly, I don't think so, John. I think that's where people would like us to be as an industry. I think that's what users expect. But look, if we look at things that have taken place in just communications fabric, 1996 was the first year that the Session Initiation Protocol, or SIP, was introduced. We still have no standardization of SIP across the board. And so, look, you mentioned solution. Sometimes you're just meeting with people in the room, and there's nobody else. They're not on audio, they're not on video, they're not in Slack, they're not in Teams, they're not in these other solutions, and that's still yet too hard. So I don't think it's simply a matter of uniting that. I think I think it's a combination of these approaches, and I think you need to look very carefully at what the user population you're serving is, and then I think there's elements at the state of the industry today that are going to blend together.
Well, I also think there's a yes, but. Too,
Perfect.
Right?
Only with love and passion.
Always with love. If you ask any one of us, have we solved the guest sharing? We all can have a way, but it's not the same way. And
Right.
so there's
Right.
not a consistent set of expectations that customers can have. Because honestly, sure, you can do it. And if you email it to me, I can share it. Case closed, right? We're all done. But that's not necessarily the right thing.
Right.
So And that's not our solution, by the way, although it would also work. I think that it gets back to looking at how users actually want to work and reflecting their expectations and remembering that their expectations for what they can do at work are greatly shaped by their expectations of what they can do at home with this or what they can do at home with other devices. And if I can print from my iPad to the printer in my office at home without getting up from the couch, why can't I do that at work? Right? And that's the level of simplicity that we need to be moving toward as an industry with a similar set of expectations.
So,
As I say, I think there's another level of complexity there as well. So it gets beyond what we can do as, quote, our guest access, right? When you look at these solutions, the first question should be, do you have anything more than one option for guest access, right? Because what IT shop in the world has one thing they're going to let you do, right? So again, I'm ex-IT. And when I deal with customers on a day-to-day basis, there is no answer, right? You've got, the panel we did earlier today is the merger of AV and IT, right? Eventually, it's going to all get merged. Is it 3 years down the road? Is it 10 years down the road? Who knows? But today you have some groups that have merged AV and IT, and you have some groups that are still completely dispersed, right? And I mean, just an example, you were talking about with the wireless access points. You can have a great wireless access guest access system, but if you're not working with the IT side of the house and you go bring that up, and all of a sudden you bring down the regular IT wireless infrastructure through your wireless interference, and now their SIP phone calls and everything else aren't going through because you closed their wireless, that AV conference is going to stay up very long because I guarantee IT is going to come and pull the network, right? So you've got all these layers of stuff you have to work in. So you need to, even if it's an AV solution, you have to comprehend multiple layers. So when we talk about guest access, it's not does your solution work, it's how does your solution work in these various scenarios, right? And so if they can't answer how it works across multiple scenarios, or if they don't have multiple layers of how it can work, then they're not thinking about where it's going with AV and IT. And I think that's a very good point.
good point. So, Ted, you mentioned just in the room, the solutions that I was looking at today across the different communities here looked like they were trying to be that all-in-one. And I'm not saying that in a negative sense, where you can share in room, you can share across multiple, location and even across multiple geographies if you have the right, applications or et cetera in the right locations. Is that the right design? Is that the right approach?
Well, that feels like a giant beach ball, John, so thank you.
Well, it wasn't necessarily to you, Ted, but you seem to grab it with both
No,
hands.
I do think that presentation, the reason people are in the room is it's hard, and it does depend upon a number of approaches. And it's if you have a specialization, and I'll just make this very simple. If you're an AV professional with 26 years, you look at a problem in a meeting space, you're going to look to what you know from AV. If you're looking at this from a cloud service provider perspective, you're going to look at it from a cloud service provider's perspective. If you're a furniture provider, you're going to look at it from a furniture perspective. If you're a traditional video conferencing provider who has great solutions, you're going to look at it from that. And I think that's the point I was trying to make, is unfortunately, we're not there yet where there is one solution. I think we're getting there, and I think there's tremendous advancements that we've made. And in some cases, the most secure, easiest way to do it is an HDMI cable. So people still want that. That's the easiest way to solve that problem. But then there are companies that want full integration across cloud service. There is the OS approach. There's a traditional AV approach. I guess I'm just being honest. I think everybody came into this room hoping all of us would stand up, come together, put our hands together and say, problem solved, you can go back and tell your users it's done, and we're not quite there.
Well, Ted, I think also, finding one solution isn't the answer. The true answer in all of this is being able to provide multiple solutions that the end users can use what they're comfortable with.
You're right.
And when we reach that point, we kind of realize that user experience and the ease of use across all the different modalities, but they can coexist together in a certain way. That's where the ultimate answer potentially could be.
I couldn't agree more. And so if they want to use your service, which is taking off like crazy, fantastic. If they have a combination of Polycom in their environments and they're looking at your solution, that's going to work. If they have a combination of Crestron and your solution, we know that's going to work too. And the same is true, right? From an OS perspective, it's going to get there. But I like Amy's vision. Boy, it ought to just be as simple as print. Although I'll tell you, I have many members of my family who took the IT executive and said, Dad, I can't print. So we're still not quite there yet.
Or you can have the Zoom room on the Mercury, right?
Well, I wasn't trying to make a blatant statement, but thank you, you did.
So maybe one of the options is just to allow people, by the way, just to mention one side note. Most of the meetings that we have in our meeting spaces are between the employees of that particular company and not with guests. Again, as a general statement, yeah, we have lots of guests coming, but the majority of the meeting that happens in a particular corporate are within the corporate employees.
Yeah, I think you hit that right on the head. So if I could say one thing that I don't recommend, and I'm taking a pot shot of a former company I worked at too called Microsoft. Look, rooms shouldn't have identity and access management as users do. You shouldn't preload content to a room. I don't know about you, but chances are the content you're bringing to the room to share internally, externally, as a vendor, changed 5 seconds before you walked into that room. So I don't think anybody in the panel here is advocating that approach.
And
Real
the
time
second,
is the leader.
and the second thing that I fully agree with you, Ted, is the user experience. This is the most important thing, okay? And what is easier than doing what you used to do at home? So if you have an Apple device and you used to do iOS mirroring or AirPlay, as they call it, what will be more natural for anyone, employee or a guest, just to use the same technology the same way in a meeting room? So that's the kind of user experience we are trying to pass on. Unfortunately, Steve Jobs was a genius, and it was like one in a generation that could come up with a so intuitive OS that even small babies, kids can operate an iPad and an iPhone. We are not that yet, not in Kramer at least. We don't have these kind of geniuses, but we are trying to go step by step and allow the things that he's designed or other Apple employees designed to be flawless going into a meeting space, use the same scenario that you use at home. That's the idea.
But so to Ted's point about being dad IT, I think most of us can relate to being IT support for many members of our family. What people are used to doing may not translate because they may not actually be used to doing what they think they're doing. By that I mean, when we did more usability testing and we specifically asked and recruited people who said, oh yes, I use Apple TV. I know how to do that. When presented with an Apple TV UI, 5 out of 8 were flummoxed and had no real idea what to do with this thing to get to that screen. So the drive to simplicity has to go hand in hand with really understanding what people know how to do when they say they know how to do something. And even if it's drop dead simple, we still have to train people.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, again, it comes down to requirements. And the requirements a lot of time when you work with your end customers isn't a technology, okay? The great example up here is AirPlay, right? If you go out and ask customers what I want an AirPlay experience inside my environment. That's not what they want. They want the simplicity of AirPlay. They want something as simple as being able to walk in and you do for Apple, it's a 6-digit pairing sequence. For Unite, that's a 6-digit pairing sequence, right? How do I walk in under 30 seconds, enter 6 digits, and I'm presenting my content to the screen? That's what they want. So focus on the experience, what they want, and make sure your technology can deliver the experience. That's the first most important part. The second part is, we talk a lot about rooms. Rooms are still going to be around in 3 to 10 years, right? You're going to see executive briefing rooms, you're still going to see C-level rooms. But through workplace transformation, you look at any of the studies that are coming out in workplace transformation right now, it's not about rooms, it's about spaces. It's about collaboration spaces, it's about open floor spaces, it's about huddle spaces, it's about all this stuff. Why? Because the way we work is fundamentally changing. I was talking to a customer just out in the hall right before lunch, and it was the same thing. I'm trying to show him something on my phone, he's trying to show me something else. I was standing right next to this 55-inch monitor out there, and I go, if they had my solution on here, you and I both could throw our content up here at the same time, and we could share this monitor at the same time, we could both see each thing, right? But they don't have it out here. Infocom conference, and they're still just regular digital signage, right? So how do you go to that next level of workplace transformation? How do you put a technology in it and take you to the next level? That's what's really important.
So I love what you said, and maybe just to be a little bit provocative, I think the generation coming into the workforce over the next 5 or even now, years, for the next 20 years, actually uses multiple applications for the same thing. Just look at your college-age student or your son or daughter. Look at your high school son or daughter. They're not just using Facebook. They're not just using Instagram. They're not just using whatever the latest one is, because they're ever changing, and they tell me there's a new one, Snapchat, all these things. They're using them all. So I think what you want, what your users want today, is they want them all.
But so here's the thing, right? You can make a phone call from a bazillion different devices. But if you're presented with the numbers to dial a number, it's always the same. Whether it once we've gotten past rotary, right? You know, the keypad's a keypad. And so regardless of what device you're using, there's that inherent level of understanding. Now, our digital native millennials and up and comings have an awareness of the way apps tend to work that drives a familiarity, whether they're using Snapchat or whether they're using whatever, that maybe some of your Xers and boomers don't. But that's what we have to build in, is what are those common paradigms? What's the keypad as keypad that allows people to then understand different approaches but not have to read a manual every time?
Yeah, I agree.
So
My point in that was just saying that users of today don't, at the risk of overstating this, users today and of the future are using multiple apps and multiple approaches to solve the exact same problem. And that's a challenge for us, and we have to be smart about it. And I think that's what you said too.
Yeah, I think if I could just throw in one comment, I don't typically like to disagree too much with the panelists, but Ted, I'm going to tell you one thing that I've learned, and I think you should catch on to this, is that the only reason they're using multiple apps is because as soon as you catch on to the app that they're using and you join that community, they opt for the next one. That's what's happening. I just want you to be aware of what's reality there. I'm just talking out of experience with my own children, right?
I actually don't have Snapchat or Instagram.
Anyhow, but seriously, they do keep on the move, and there's a reason for it. And it's not just because they want multiple apps, but get moving along. Hey, so this is IMCCA, and it's collaborative communication. So we've been talking about a lot about presentation, and we have still challenges. Obviously, it's clear from what the panel said. I'd like to talk a little bit more and give you actually opportunity, each of you potentially, if you so desire, briefly to talk about maybe some of the collaborative capabilities or differentiators that are adding value to these wireless presentations. Because unlike, as my old colleague Roger Farnworth would always talk about, is, John, are you ready with your foils, right? Unlike the foils where you had very limited capability to collaborate into, in multi-session, et cetera. A lot of these new solutions have some of that embedded, and what are some of the one or two elements you might want to mention about what you're doing? So we're going to start with Wayne and work our way towards Ted. Give Ted a break.
Perfect. When it comes to collaboration, that's really at the core of what Zoom is. So we enable wireless presentation sharing as a result of our collaborative capabilities. So when you look at the collaboration capabilities of Zoom itself, they're all built in. You have your video conference capability, you have your content share, you'll have your ability to chat, panels, or run polls, and have all that at your fingertips from no matter where you are. So collaboration is at the core. We provide it at the desktop level, at the mobile level, and in the room level with Zoom Rooms. We also provide it through our interoperability capabilities and partnerships with Polycom, and enabling other technologies to come into that collaborative experience. And then through that, the wireless presentation portion of it is just naturally embedded in all experience, no matter where you are, no matter where you're connected. So from at the core of the collaboration engine, we battle this same ease of use conversation itself. I think that's one reason why we've gotten great feedback in the marketplace from Zoom. Is at the core of what we wanted to drive was ease of use, was high quality, and it really helped drive that barrier of entry down in the market itself. So that was, John, that's our really core of where we came from.
Right.
Our founders were some of the early individuals at WebEx and then at Cisco, and we saw the complexity as various technologies were acquired and tried to be pulled together. So coming out of that, understanding what the complexities were, what the bad user experience was, we were able to come out with Zoom to actually help correct that. Great feedback so far. And, the partnerships we've built, of course, are very valuable to us, and I think speaks volumes to that minimizing the on-ramp of getting people into a collaborative environment.
And without, I don't want to sound rude at all, because I don't mean to be. Can we be a little bit quicker? Because after we do this, finish this, I'd like to get the audience engaged and asking their questions. So if Amy and the rest of the team can be just a little bit faster.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at in the room or in the huddle space or in the team space or in the environment where you're actually wanting to share content and do things, one of the things that often happens if you have remote people coming in and joining that, at some point somebody will say, all right, I'm going to go to the whiteboard, or I'm going to go up here. I'll try to talk you along, Joe, on the far end, and so you can kind of know what's going on. And there's a lot of things that happen in the room or in the space that leave the far end joiners behind, or that require at the end of the session somebody to use their phone to take a picture, and then they'll promise they'll transcribe it, and maybe they might send out the picture, and so you kind of lose what happens. And so what we tried to do with Polycom Pano is to address that with whiteboarding that can go in and then be fed through a video stream, so the far end can actually see what's going on, and that can then be saved, so you have a record of what happened that can be shared. And I think that bringing those two together is a powerful opportunity to solve a real problem.
Okay, so the VIA product line started as a collaboration device rather than a wireless presentation. As my friend just said, wireless presentation capability is a natural thing if you want to do something on the main display, right? So what is wireless collaboration? So the ability to annotate on the screen together, not just the presenter, but let's assume that you are connected to a VIA device. Each one of you can use a mobile device, a tablet, a laptop from any kind, and collaborate on the main display at the same time. If we have an Excel chart, just like Google Docs, we can work on the Excel chart at the same time. And when we finish doing our job, our task, we can share those files between us with a simple click of a button. The VIA solution is designed to solve the in-room collaboration challenges. However, if we need to bring people from the outside, we use video conferencing technologies such as Zoom, BlueJeans, Skype for Business, and you name it. So we are not pretending to be a video conference company. We don't have a platform. We use third-party platforms because they are good and better and much more established. But we do offer, as we believe, the best in-room collaboration and capabilities. So anyone can work on a single document or digital something on the main display. It can be a CAD drawing, a Photoshop, or anything else. That's the meaning of collaboration, doing something together, not just one.
Again, with Unite, our goal was to provide simple wireless display plus collaboration, right? So we do on-screen annotation, we support connectivity both in the space, out of the space. But like many people have said here, we are not experts in video conferencing. We're not experts in whiteboard technology, these kinds of things. And so what we do is we partner with a lot of the people in the industry. Zoom's a great example here. Wayne and I have worked on several deals together where, we've got systems where people are bringing Zoom video in to do the video collaboration piece as part of this, but using the Unite interface to go in and do that. Same thing with FlatFrog. We've got FlatFrog that's providing whiteboard technologies to interactive displays to use that inside of Unite. So just like what Neta was saying here, we partner with the best in the industry around certain technologies. But the biggest thing for me is when you look at a lot of these technologies and companies, they don't have a standard technology. Inside of Intel, we've got Cisco, we've got Microsoft, we've got Zoom, we've got, you name it, we've got it, right? And so how do you provide a consistent base layer of technology that works with all of them? That's kind of what the goal is around collaboration. Consistent UI that allows you to use whatever technologies in the room and use the technologies that you're working with the other customers with. That's kind of what the goal is.
I love the approach, and thank you for that beach ball again, because from a Crestron perspective, we don't believe there is a single solution. We believe that people will adopt, and people will keep, and people will add multiple collaboration technologies, and I think you just said it very well. You can't dictate to a department in today's environment which absolute collaboration tool you'll use. So I think the requirement is, and what we look and strive for to deliver in the Crestron solution, is a meeting room fabric that allows us to partner with many of the folks at the table, and we're using a variety of collaboration tools, Slack, Teams, Skype for Business, Zoom, on and on and on, and there will be more and more and more and more. That's fantastic. So you have to have this balance between, I just need to get in a room and present the content I finished 10 seconds ago, and I need to do that. So I think overall responses, you'll see in our approach, we believe there's a meeting room fabric that needs to embrace the collaboration solutions, it needs to embrace the operating system and network environments, and it has to offer a little bit of both.
Right, excellent, thanks. So any questions from folks in the audience for the panel or a specific panel member? Okay.
The panel, you hit on all over about the security elements of it. I'm from the IT side of the house, we've got the AV side coming under my plate. One of the things we struggle with is now I have a room full of rogue access points, basically all these Wi-Fi systems. We have a very secure staff Wi-Fi network, and we have a guest network. Now I have this rogue network, and I can't manage that. I'm thinking that one area that the industry needs to look at is that your tools need to talk to the IT side of the house. And
Absolutely.
management piece of this, so a Cisco manager access point. Take your thoughts on that.
So just so everybody make sure you heard the question, the gentleman says he represents IT, AV is coming underneath him. They've looked at the Wi-Fi approach, but many of the solutions, maybe not here on this panel, but many traditional solutions require a brand new wireless access point. And so the difficulty is you've got saturation of Wi-Fi frequencies, you've got Bluetooth stacks running around on tablets and laptops and so forth. So what he was asking for is an approach that said, look, don't give me another wireless access point, but give me something that's complementary to the wireless access points and the guest Wi-Fi I already have today.
So what you're kind of describing is what's going on the show floor right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that you were really hoping for is that, well, you interrupted me. But you're looking for a solution that actually allows you as the IT manager to know, is that room available? Is presentation online? What's the status of it? And it's not for 1 or 2 or 3 rooms. It may be 5,000 rooms, it may be 10,000 rooms, and you want a single pane of glass that allows you to say something like Power BI to know, can my users present in the room right now? And I'll just say, yep, you can. Come by the booth, we'll show you that.
And also with the elimination, as we talked about earlier, taking it to the cloud, eliminating that barrier of having to be on a dedicated or a certain network, just having network access through any method will help alleviate that as well. Because then it's not up to you to manage the security of that or manage the support of that. They can leverage their cellular network, Wi-Fi guest network you have, and their dedicated network required just for collaborating. So that's kind of also the flip side of it as well. By moving it up to the cloud, you eliminate that local requirement and support and maintenance and everything else that goes along with it.
Question in the back?
Yes, for the hardware solution companies, how are you guys handling every time Apple has an OS and AirPlay stops working?
I have a good answer for that. I do admit that I'm an Apple addict. Every time Apple introduces something, I have to buy it. I just have to. My wife complains. So I just got yesterday the new iPad just to make sure everything is sleek. And I also got the new iPhone running the iOS 11 AirPlay. Not just AirPlay, iOS 11. And you can come to our booth and see how the new AirPlay is working with our devices without any changes. So that's a task. It's a tough thing, okay? The change between iOS 8 and 9 was a nightmare because none of us were expecting a change in the AirPlay protocol. When 9 changed to 10, we test every beta version that Apple released just to make sure we are aligned with the latest technology that Apple introduced, and they did also change the AirPlay protocol between iOS 9 and iOS 10. First thing I did after the keynote that was, I think, last week, I put the iOS 11 on our device and I tried to do mirroring. So I'm happy to say that currently with beta 1, mirroring still works. There are different tweaks that happens there behind the scenes that we already got to know and figured this out. But there is no guarantee that Apple will change anything and will let us know because they only license the audio AirPlay technology and AirPlay 2 obviously. But when it comes to video, their approach is only Apple TV is the only receiver that can do that. So
I think
it's a challenge. It's like a cat and a mouse.
It's a cat and a mouse. It's very much akin to browsers changing, and all of a sudden you can no longer complete the zip code in the order form, right? So I think part of the onus is on us as suppliers to be, you know, as we hear here, we got to be testing, and we got to make sure that we're staying on top of it. I think part of it also needs to be that customers also continue to demand that the big dogs kind of remember that there are customers out there who are relying on the technology, and it's not a whim to change it because the impacts are pretty significant. And while you're writing letters to Apple, I would also encourage you to write letters to your favorite Android supplier and ask them to kind of start getting together and working toward a more common, you know, execution of Miracast as well.
I just want to add one thing that we deal with it at the beginning. That's the main benefit of using a PC approach rather than a dedicated hardware for wireless presentation, because it's very, very difficult to change and modify the dedicated hardware rather than to change some code on a PC. It's much easier, it's much faster.
Unite doesn't use AirPlay, so we don't have that problem.
All right. Any other questions in the room? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Just out of curiosity, have any of your companies started working with the DoD to try and get all of their massive level approvals done so that we might be able to utilize some of these products on our network?
So I'm going to repeat the question real quickly. The ladies concerned about have the panel members worked with the DoD to get the necessary clearances for these wireless presentation solutions to work in those environments.
So, Intel has a whole LLC underneath those that works with the federal government. So our Unite product, we currently have reps that are working with different parts of the government. But again, we kind of, I wouldn't say cheap, but because ours is PC based, we can use your existing government software builds on our hubs that go inside your conference rooms. And you just simply turn features on or off that do or don't meet your security guidelines and stuff. So basic wireless display, since we're using already approved DoD networks and already approved DoD software, it's really just comes down to the whole solution going through the final security review piece. So we don't have to get new stuff certified.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, at Crestron, we've been working with the various branches of the federal government. I think you're talking about things like, you know, JITIC certifications and ensuring you've got that. Yeah, I think almost everybody up here has that. I know Polycom does, I know Kramer does, and I certainly know Zoom does as well. So yeah, it's one of those cat and mouse things. We're always bringing out new solutions, and then it's, oh, what's changed, and let's put it back through the certification process. And by the way, that applies to HIPAA and, you know, personal identifiable information. We're all committed to that.
Yes. Any other questions? So we have, it doesn't look like the rest. There's 6 minutes left, and I'm not one to waste time. So I do have two quick questions for the panel, and they're both going to be one word each. What's your true differentiation for your solution with respect to wireless presentation in a single word?
Included.
Okay.
Ease. Best value for money.
That's not
Well, I guess Amy and Wayne are done now. Okay, so sorry, Amy and Wayne, he took your words. No,
I'm
kidding.
just trying to see how many words I can put together and hyphenate and call it one word.
Okay, so back to the one word, Amy?
Ease.
Ease.
All right. Okay, thanks. And then we're going to do the same thing. Do you envision, or do you believe, based on what you heard here, and a lot of what I heard here is we're in desperate need of some standardization on the user experience side of this. Do you believe in your heart of hearts, in reality, honestly, that your company would be willing to join a group to do just that, or do you like the fact that you get to keep your own personal, your own company solution and you do it your way? Yes or no?
I think the world is requesting it, these users are requesting it, these people implementing this are requesting it. Yes, I think that we should get to the point that wireless presentation, as you approach meeting rooms across solutions, ought to be standardized, taking all the considerations. So yes, we support that.
That was a lot of hyphens.
I think just like Neta said earlier, yes, we already go through certification on our product with a lot of different security standards, so yes.
I would love to see it, but I doubt if it'll work. You're all aware of a standard called HDMI. What happens when you connect two HDMI devices? I'll rest my case.
So, yes, we are.
There's a glass is 1/3 full.
And I think the reason that I would say we'd love the standard is because then we can innovate around that and not just be focusing on getting the plug in the wall. That's not the benefit we bring to the table. So yeah, love standard.
When you raise the bar on a baseline use and a baseline interface, then, as Amy mentioned, you can kind of add value around it and provide that better user experience. But with the elevated baseline, where you kind of overcome the ease of use across the board, then you can truly innovate versus just trying to meet the bare minimum with the standard.
I would actually have a question for the audience. If there was an established standard, would you specify it in RFPs? Because there's a lot of standards out there around some of these technologies today. And when I work with companies, they don't specify them in the RFPs. So if we can do a lot of work to put a standard together, but if you guys don't hold everybody who's bidding on stuff to those RFPs and those standards, it doesn't do a lot of good, because you just look at bottom dollar and not what the standards are. It could be, a lot of things.
Good point, Dave. Good point. All right, I'd like to thank the audience for joining us, giving us an hour of your time today. I'd like to thank the IMCCA and Infocom, and of course the panel. Thank you.
I